Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and since it's Women's History Month, I'm here today to talk to you about Birds of Prey Season 1, Episode 1, the pilot, or as they now like to call it, the premiere, because there's actually two pilots. There's one that aired on the WB, and there's one that's unaired, and the unaired one is actually on the DVD. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, Birds of Prey, the TV show, WB, what are you talking about? Like, there's no such thing. Actually, there is. Now, I know a lot of people are probably thinking about the Birds of Prey movie that came out. The one that that's very divided. Which is not even really called the Birds of Prey no more. They call it the Fabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn or some crap like that. And so, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking way back, 20 years ago. Back in the year 2002. Yeah, we're going way back now. In the early 2000s, there was a show on the WB before the WB became the CW. And that show was the Birds of Prey. So let's put it like this. What do you get when you combine Dark Angel, the TV show, Charlie's Angels, and Smallville? Well, you get Birds of Prey. And so after the success of Smallville Season 1, the WB started thinking, who can we make next into a brand new TV show that's similar to probably that of Smallville? Smallville was a very unique show that lasted, I think, about 11 years, I believe. And it followed the show of a young Clark Kent before he became Superman. He was never Superboy. It was just Clark running around in his regular clothes and saving people. This show had a very unique formula. It was very drama focused. Clark never wore a true Superman costume he just wore his regular clothes. In the later seasons, he wore a modified looking Superman outfit that still looked like clothes, a long black trench coat, black jeans, and a black shirt. And then later on, he changed it up to blue jeans and to a red leather jacket. And then in the very, very last episode, he wore a CGI Superman suit. And so he never wore like a true Superman costume throughout the entire 11 years. And then not only that, but Clark was not allowed to fight nobody. And he was not allowed to fly. Those were the major rules of the show. Now, they brought in other heroes. Green Arrow is the only one to wear a true traditional costume. And Black Canary. The other heroes wore more modified, like Smallville versions of costumes. Basically hoodies and leather. And let's see, the villains never wore a costume. They just wore regular clothes. It was a very unique Dawson's Creek-ish type show. And it worked. And so they was thinking, well, okay, how can we replicate this? I know the obvious choice is Batman, but there's a huge problem. See, Batman is tied up in the movies, and Batman is not allowed to have his own TV show. The only Batman show to ever truly exist is that of the Adam West Batman show, live action that is. He can appear in animation all he wants, but not in live action. And so they were kind of rounding around, probably in their brains, and they probably came up with, hey, what about a young Bruce Wayne? Well, you gotta remember, a young Bruce Wayne, his parents got shot, and then when he got graduated from like college, he traveled the world and he learned the skills to be Batman. Now they could have done that. They could have showed him going around the world, interacting with people, probably trying to save people and failing. They could have done that, but they didn't want to. And then, of course, as we all now know, in the Gotham TV show, they did that with a much younger Bruce. It was not the original intent. The original intent was to follow a young Jim Gordon and to have absolutely no super villains. But because the ratings were they were in season one, they wasn't that great. They decided in season two, we gotta jazz things up. They brought in super villains and they made young Bruce, who was not even supposed to stay in the show past like the first couple of episodes of the first season. It started focusing more on him becoming Batman, which made no sense because now all of his villains know who he is. So yeah. And so like at some point they came up with the idea of, hey, there's this one female group led by like the former Batgirl. Why not just do that? And so here comes Birds of Prey. And they tried to follow that same format of Smallville, but change it up a bit. See, in this show, there are no costumes. Except for the old, like, members of, like, Gotham, like Batman, Catwoman, and Batgirl. And those are only in flashbacks. And so, our main hero, the Huntress, she does not wear a costume. She wears an outfit, like regular clothes, that can be mistaken for, like, a costume, but it's never a costume. The supervillains in this thing, they never wear costumes as well. And so there's only one villain who actually wears a costume, but it still looks kind of like a modified version of clothes. And just like with Smallville, the villains, for some bizarre reason in this show, are all metahumans. But there's only one real, like, non-metahuman, and that's Lady Shiva. And so, but she also fights like little thugs in the street, but they don't have no powers. But other than that, it kind of tried to follow that formula of Smallville. Now, interestingly enough, they make reference to Smallville in this, talking about like, oh, where did all these metahumans come from? Oh, I heard there's some crazy stuff going on with meteorites. I wonder where that could come from. And so when it came to action, they actually had action, but it was very brief, similar to that of Dark Angel, where they will only have like 2 fights and they'll be very quick. But the fighting style in this show that mainly came from that of the Huntress was less hand-to-hand and foot like combat martial arts, and it was more about flipping around, twisting and turning, and throwing a few punches and stuff. It was very acrobatic. It was very I guess you could kind of say it was like a really beautiful like aesthetic to it. And so they tried that, and they tried the whole villain of the week thing, but the problem is that they had villains that nobody never heard of, because all of their villains in the show were made up for the show, except for that of Lady Shiva, Clayface, and Harley Quinn. But this Clayface is completely different. Now, I'll get more into these people slightly a little bit more, because this is going to be like the rundown of like the first episode and a little bit of a rundown review and stuff. Because it only lasted for 13 episodes and it got canceled. And so, like, Clayface in this, he has the ability to turn people into stone. Why? I have no idea. Lady Shiva is another villain, and she wears a costume, but it's Lady Shiva 2.0. Her mom died. And so she blames Batgirl and goes on, like, revenge. And then there's Harley Quinn, which is technically Dr. Harleen Quinzel, because this Harley Quinn never wore the costume. She would hang out with the Joker back in the day and became corrupt, but she never became like his accomplice sidekick type person. But she is the one recruiting metahumans to destroy Gotham for some bizarre, crazy reason, because she's crazy in the head. But this Harley Quinn is more serious. She's not wacky or zany like the one we know and love. She does have a little quirk and a little like giddy smile and stuff. and she's a little bit more comedic in the final episode, but that's about it. Now, ironically enough, this show is very similar to, well, the pilot of this episode is very similar to that of a Arrowverse show that I'll get into in another video, because it's kind of interesting how when this Arrowverse show was created, they basically saw the pilot and ripped things from it. Even one of the stars from the show. Now, when this show came out, I initially hated this show. It was 2002. It was my second year of college, and I was going through a rough patch. And what made it worse is that I'm thinking, okay, cool, this is gonna be like a Batman type show. Oh no, wait. He decides to leave Gotham. And that pissed me off. I'm just like, Batman would never do that. But then now, of course, now in later comics from 2002, now he does. And so I was really annoyed by that. I'm like, you made him into like a little coward who just like left. And so this show took a lot of liberties. It's a true adaptation. They changed stuff around, but they also had a bunch of comic book references and stuff like that. And so this Huntress is not the Huntress everybody know and love. The one with like the crossbow and the costume and was the daughter of a mobster. She's still Helena. But I forgot her last name in the comics. Something with a B. This one is Helena Wayne. This is from an alternate Earth in the comic books, where Catwoman and Batman made a daughter named Huntress. And this is what this one's based off of. However, she still does not have her crossbow like in the comics. Also, this movie, when the trailers first came out, they had footage from Batman Returns and like the Tim Burton stuff. And it's a mosh pot of like the Burton Schumer type movies, which are all like canon within each other. It's kind of like a little combination of that. Because ironically, Batman and Catwoman show up in flashbacks, and so do Batgirl, and their costumes are pretty much based off the ones from the movie. This is the first and only real show to show not only the full body costume of Batman, Catwoman, Batgirl, and the Joker, but it shows their faces. Yes, this is back when the WB or no DC was a little bit more lenient and they would allow something like that. Nowadays, they have to show the back of Batman or another person, or in the silhouette, or from a far away distance, or something like that. And they have to cover their face. And so it's ironic. It's really cool because you get to see a full-on bat suit, Catwoman, this and that. And it's just like insane. And it's like really cool. Now, just like with the Tim Burton Catwoman, this Catwoman was a metahuman. Because remember, the only metahuman powers that his Catwoman had was that she had 9 lives. So she had some type of immortality. Once those 9 lives are up, boom, she's gone. But in this show, we don't get to see her with her feline prowess, but her daughter inherited a bunch of cat-like abilities. Her eyes are able to turn cat-like, and she's able to jump around like a cat, and she slinks around like a cat and stuff like that. Now the suit is pretty much like a cheap version of Michelle Pfeiffer's suit. It's very loose. Even the mask is falling off her face as she's doing her stunts in the flashbacks. And we get to see her blonde hair. And Tim Burton's Catwoman is the only one with blonde hair. That and Bruce Timm. Now, this Catwoman is briefly played by a stunt woman named Casey Ellslick. And so it's basically she has no lines and she just there to do stunt work, but we actually get to see her face and stuff. Now, this Catwoman, like I said before, is the mother of Helena Cal. And so she is murdered in the street by a man that the Joker hired. And it's revealed in the finale, or towards the finale, that it was Clayface that murdered her. So this really devastated Helena and everything. It's something she would live with for the rest of her life. And so the Joker, who hired this man, see, Joker wanted to emotionally break Batman every way he can. Now, let me just say, this is the worst looking Joker I've ever seen in live action. Nothing against the stunt dude that plays him. But yeah, the guy who plays him is Roger Stoneburner. They just made him look goofy with goofy hair and this and that. But I'm surprised they showed his face. And it's kind of comic book goofy a little bit because he has a joy buzzer that shoots out electrical pulses. But he's voiced by Mark Hamill. And so, like, in this, the Joker and Batman have their last battle. Joker really wants to take it to Batman. So he murders Selena Kyle. And so Batman at this time never knew he had a daughter. Selena kept her hidden from Batman. I mean, how? He's the greatest detective. And so the Joker wasn't done there. They made a bit of an adaptation of the Killing Joke in this, a modified version. Instead of Joker wanting to take it to Gordon and shooting Barbara and paralyzing her, this version of the Joker knows somehow who Batgirl is. He knows she's Barbara Gordon. Barbara comes back from fighting crime one night, and what happened was he knocks on the door. She's taking a shower. She comes out. She opens the door, and here he is with his gun, and he shoots her. And when she falls on the ground bleeding, she's bleeding near her belt and her mask. Why would she leave that near the front door? Nobody knows. Because what if the person wanted to come in the house? You know what I'm saying? So now she became paraplegic, and then she later became a school teacher. And so, but she's also became Oracle. Now, the Batman in this is a little bit more interesting. This dude is played by Bruce Thomas. He's an actor. And what's so crazy is like, okay, at first when I was watching this, I thought they used the Tim Burton Batman Return bat suit. No, they used the Val Kilmer Batman suit, but with the cape from that of the Batman and Robin George Clooney. And so what's ironic about this thing is that the dude who plays him is the same dude who plays Batman in those old school. My bad, my battery died out. So where was that? So he's the dude who played Batman in those old school OnStar like commercials. You remember those back in the 90s, back when the Batman movies are very popular? And they used to be like all these Batman commercials and stuff. I think they're all on YouTube. Go check those out. And so, yeah, he's the dude who plays him. So that's crazy. This dude has also lent his voice to many Batman animated projects, even voicing Commissioner Gordon and Batman Hush. So, yeah, that's like insane. So I always thought this was kind of cool because one thing about this show is that this show, in the pilot at least, they had a bunch of flashbacks to like Batman, Batgirl, and the Joker and stuff like that. And I like that. I like that setup. It's not just everything in the modern age. It's like flashbacks. It reminds me of Arrow. But no, when I said this show is similar to that of a Arrowverse show, I'm not talking about Arrow. It's another one. So anyway, but yeah, I like how they do that. And it's always like a narration that goes with the like flashback. And unlike Arrow, their flashbacks don't last for like 5 minutes and everything. They're brief, they get to the point, and you know, they're fun to see. It's like, ooh, wow, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's even cooler when you know that you never get to see Batman in live action anymore and stuff. And so like, the episode, it starts off with Alfred like narrating like what happened. And so I just want to interrupt for like a brief second before I get into the rest of this video. It's like when I was doing the ripoff of Batwoman and Birds of Prey, I realized something. In the past 22 years, ever since all these live action DC shows have come to the WB and the CW, every pilot starts off with a flashback. That is so weird. That is just so weird. This Alfred is played by the late Ian Crombie. And so this dude, I like this version of Alfred. He's nice, he's kind, he's sweet. He has some weight to him, like the Alfred of the older comics before they started slimming him down. He's just all about being a butler. He's not about like, mouthing off the Batman like you see in all these new iterations and stuff ever since the Dark Knight. And so he's a very obedient like butler like he used to be. And he does something in the finale with something Alfred did in the first Batman movie, reveal Barbara's true identity to her lover and stuff. And so like this Alfred actually doesn't get to appear that much in the show. He just bops in every now and then. And he's narrating like, oh, by the way, you can find this show on Tubi. Boy, I love Tubi. You can find lots of great stuff on there from back in the day. And I believe it's on HBO Max. At least it should be because of DC property and stuff. And like I said before, it is on DVD. Now, I never did finish the story about I used to hate. So anyway, I used to hate this show, right? Because they made Batman leave and everything, and I was pissed about that. Then they changed the way Huntress is. She's not the Huntress that everybody knows and love with the costume. She's completely different in this, and so I was bummed by that. They changed their version of Black Canary, or at least the daughter of her, and they gave her telepathic powers. I didn't like that either. And I remember thinking to myself, why are they fighting metahumans? Why is Harley Quinn not acting like Harley Quinn? Why is she not dressed like Harley Quinn? In the finale, though, she does have an outfit similar to Harley Quinn, but it's still clothes. And so I was kind of bummed how they kept changing everything. And like I said before, I was going through like a bad time my second year of college. And so I was just really hating on this show. And it didn't have that much action. Like there was action, but not that much. And so I'm just like, whatever, this show sucks. But then back when the CW had the CWC before they merged into the CW app, I decided to rewatch this show. And I actually started enjoying it. And one reason why I started enjoying it, because I started disliking the Arrowverse more. And so as I started watching this, I'm like, wow, like there's no long-winded speeches. There are no philosophical foo-foo speeches. They're not like dwelling on love. And I'm just like, man, this is very enjoyable. I don't have to hear none of that crap. And it's not overly dramatic like the Arrowverse shows. There's no talk about being like destined to do this. There's no, we're meant to be fall in love type crap. It didn't get as silly and goofy as later like Arrowverse iterations and stuff. There was no trying to build a bigger universe type thing. And I'm just like, this is a whole lot more enjoyable. Now, is it better than the Arrowverse? I'll get into that a little bit later. Because it's kind of hard to say, you know what I'm saying? It's not really a fair question and stuff. But anyway. So I found myself starting to like enjoy it, and because I started hating the Arrowverse. And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to stop watching this halfway through. Since I like it this much, I'm going to buy it on DVD. And the DVD comes with Gotham Girls, which was a web series back in the day. I'll talk about that some other time. And so, yeah, Alfred's narrating what's going on. He talks about how Batman and Catwoman were like, lovers and everything, and about how she was also a criminal, and how she had like a daughter that he didn't know about. and how the Joker raged war and wanted to just like hurt Batman as much as possible. So he kills Selena Kyle by hiring that dude. It really upsets, like, Helena. Then he shoots and paralyzes Barbara because he knows her identity. And so him and Batman have like, so before all that, well, actually, no, this is the part that makes no sense because there's a flash. It's another flashback, right? Another flashback that involves Batgirl, and supposedly that was the last battle between Batman and Joker. But then that can't be because she wasn't paralyzed then. So this is a little fuzzy. Like the show's not perfect. It's good. It's just not perfect. And so at some point in time, there is a huge battle, and then him and Joker just like disappear, right? And so while all this is going on, there's a little girl named Dinah Redmount. And she is able to see all this stuff that's happening. Barbara getting shot, Selena Kyle dying, and all this other stuff, right? She is psychic. Now it's funny because she's played by a very young, very unknown at that time, AJ McCullough, I think her name is. And yeah, so she plays like the younger version of Dinah. And then so 7 years later, when she's a 16-year-old teenager, she decides to travel to Gotham and run away from home. And she ran away from her foster parents. Now, this narration introduction happens before every episode, but they streamlined it and changed it up for like the rest of like the episodes. Oh, also the intro. Man, the intro, I love it. I love the visuals. I love the original song, Evolution. But because of streaming and DVDs, they had to change some of the music so they won't like get sued and stuff. And so they changed the intro song. It's different. It's more gentle and melancholy, but it doesn't have that rock and roll vibe as like the old one. So I'm just thinking to myself, why didn't they change it to rock and roll? Why did they get more of a somber type song? I just don't get it. And then when they had that somber song, it kind of makes you want to fall asleep. And now the show starts off with this teenage 16-year-old girl traveling to what they call now New Gotham. Let me speak a little bit about Gotham now. Gotham in this, it kind of has the visual look of Batman Forever. And what's interesting is that this show is filmed in Canada, but you can't really tell because when they do, like one thing's that really cool. Okay, one thing about Joe Schumacher that he used to do in Batman Forever is when he's like, he always moving the camera. It's always having this momentum to it, and it travels around the city. And it does that in this show. And when it does that, all of the buildings are CGI. And they look pretty good and believable. But you can tell it's in the computer. But it still looks believable and stuff. And so Dinah is on the bus. She's heading to Gotham. And she meets a guy named Jerry. He's this nice little guy played by Aaron Paul. Unknown at that time. And so he's just talking, asking, are you running or are you going and stuff like that. And of course, she's running away from home and going to Gotham because she just wants to seek out this adventure and stuff like that. Why exactly she wants to seek it out, who knows? But it's just riding around in her brain. And Dinah is played by Rachel Scarston, who plays Alice in Catwoman. And this is when she was 16. She was so baby faced at that time. She's a little baby and everything, man. Like I couldn't believe it. Like, this is the first thing I ever saw her in. And then the second thing was Reign, when she played Queen Elizabeth I. And then of course, Batwoman and stuff. I don't get to see her much because she's Canadian and she's on Canadian TV shows, and I don't get those and stuff. And so when she is in Gotham, she is now in search of Helena and Barbara. But Jerry gives her his number because he's trying to get with her and stuff. And so at some point in time, she's like, out and about in the street, and she sees a man on a bench. He is freaking out for some bizarre reason. And all of a sudden, he runs into traffic and gets hit by a Mack truck or a bus. There's a pretty big car. And so she runs to him and she's trying to see if he's okay. He's still briefly alive for the moment. And when she touches him, she gets like a psychic vision. She's able to go inside his mind, and all she could see or hear him say, I think like the word Phoenix or something like that. Now I have to say, the visual of her mental powers, sometimes they're cool, sometimes they're not. The first time they did this, it's really cool. I like the visual effect of it. The second time they did it, not so great. And so she is psychic and everything. How she became a metahuman, not sure. They don't explain how people become metahumans in this show like they did Smallville. And so they just randomly become metahumans like they are in the comics. This is probably one of the downfalls of the show, because people kind of want to know why. Like in Smallville, we know why. It's because of meteorites and everything, kryptonite. Now this brings her into contact with Detective Jesse Reese. Now he is played by Shamar Moore, and he is best known for voicing the role of Cyborg in the New 52 animated DC movies. And he's also on one of those CSI type shows. I forget which one. But yeah, it's kind of cool that he went from this DC project to like other DC projects and stuff. Now, he is our main cop of the show. He's a good cop. He's trying to do the best he can living in Gotham. You know how Gotham police are. And he eventually becomes the will he, won't they be relationship of that of the main star, the Huntress and stuff. They have more of a flirty type relationship and a common interest of stopping bad people kind of relationship. But they never ever go there. I don't even think they kiss or anything like that. So after talking to her and seeing what she sees, he wants to know why this dude ran out in front of traffic, trying to get the rundown of what happened. What I'm saying? Now, let's get into our other two main characters that I haven't really talked about yet. Barbara Gordon, she's played by Diane Mayer, and I really like this version of her. She's older, she's more mature, she's well seasoned in crime fighting, but she's paraplegic thanks to the Joker. So as a result, for some reason, she became a teacher for some reason. I would have liked it more if she would have became like a cop or something like that. They always give her weird professions in the DC shows. A librarian, a police cop, a teacher. And so it's just so she's a teacher in this. And she's talking to a guy and he's hitting on her. And everything's going great until she gets a page. It's from her secret oracle, database, birds of prey thing. And so she has to cut that short and go deal with what's going on in the city. What's going on is that a man has jumped from the top of a building and killed himself. And so her and Huntress must now investigate. But where's Huntress, you're wondering? Well, Huntress is in therapy. See, she took off her communication device. Her communication device is that of a choker with a bird symbol on it and a earring in the shape of a bat. It's weird and stuff. And this whole communication device thing, well, actually it's not weird because you think about it, that little choker thing, who's going to think that's a communication device, But this is the problem with it. She wears that in her everyday life when she's doing her civilian thing as Helena Cow. And she's also wears it when she goes out as Huntress. How do people not know they're the same person when they see that same choker? But that's not the only problem. I'll get in that a little bit later. So, she is in therapy. And who's her doctor? Dr. Quinzel. Now, Dr. Quinzel, she is played by Mia Sara. And so, like I said before, she's more serious and everything. She's trying to, start up this army of metahumans to take out superhero type people and just ruin Gotham. But she is Helena's therapist, and she's trying to understand what's wrong with Helena and stuff like that. She has no idea Helena is the Huntress. Helena has no idea that Harleen used to tangle with the Joker and stuff. But like I said before, she never became Harley Quinn. She never put on the costume and stuff. And so now in the unaired pilot version of this show, it pretty much follows exactly the way the televised pilot. But I don't know if Batman and Catwoman showed up. I can't really remember. But one thing that makes it different is their Harley Quinn, played by a completely different actress. This Harley Quinn now has brunette hair in the unaired pilot, played by Charlene Finn. Now, Charlene, even though she didn't get to play Harley Quinn in this show, she would later on go on to play another character in DC property many years later as playing the mother of Raven in Titans. Helena is played by Ashley Scott. Now, I give it up to Ashley Scott, man. She is a perfect huntress. She has the look. Well, stuff for the hair. She has the attitude factor. This woman mouths off to everybody on the show. She don't care if you're male. She don't care if you're female. She will mouth off to you. And she has like a proverbial chip on her shoulder. And that's really refreshing because in modern day TV, all you see is females berating men, but she berates everybody. Kind of like Xena. So that's why I really like and stuff. And so, but sadly, she doesn't have the long flowing hair as Huntress, like you would see like in the Arrowverse with that Huntress and stuff. And so she is in therapy because she's forced to go there because she vandalized something. And when she's there, see, one cool thing about this is that she's damaged. She doesn't have it all together, you know? And that's because of who her parents are. She is still reeling over the death of Selena Kyle. She cannot shake that. It has devastated her for 7 years now. And it really affects how she do her everyday life. And Harleen is trying to like help her with that, you know? And not to mention, she never knew Bruce Wayne was her father, which she reveals to Harleen Quinzel. But Harleen has no idea that Bruce and Batman are the same. And so, but she is shocked to find out that Bruce Wayne, the wealthiest man in Gotham, is her father. And so Helena kind of has a little resentment towards him. She feels abandoned by him. But the thing is, he never knew. That's the thing. And so, but he did leave Gotham at some point. And so she feels abandoned because of that. So, but she doesn't blame her mom for never telling her and stuff and never telling him, but she does feel abandonment by him. And as a result, she does not want to live in Wayne Manor, and she does not want Bruce's money. In fact, she has a job working in as a bartender, and she lives in a regular like apartment. I don't know if she lives with Barbara, but I know she lives in an apartment. And this is one thing that kind of bugs Alfred a little bit because he's all like, this is your birthright. You belong, you deserve to live in that mansion. It's your family's legacy, this and that, but she don't want no part of it. And so I really like the therapy session between those two because it feels weird. Like, it's not weird, but it feels like right, you know what I'm saying? Like, she has this weird look on her face. I was getting ahead of myself. She has a weird look on her face, like she's so numb, like it feels so real and everything, you know? And it's really refreshing kind of see like the main lead just not be all like there, you know what I'm saying? But eventually she does go to Barbara because Barbara's contacting her on the communicator device. How Harleen is not able to hear that, I guess we have to have the earpiece with the earring thing in there. So yeah. So when she's with Barbara and everything, they're talking about the dude who jumped from the building and talking about how she has to go patrolling at night. Because Barbara had to go to like her job to talk to her, and she's talking to her in broad daylight, not broad daylight, but like in the bar where everybody can hear, and they're talking about vigilante stuff. I guess since the music is bumping so loud, they think people can't hear them. Now, one interesting thing about this is the relationship between Barbara and Helena. It's a mentor, motherly like figure. And Helena doesn't want no part of that. Helena does not want her mom replaced. And she kind of sees that what Barbara is kind of doing. Barbara is more like, look, you're young, you're troubled, you need guidance, and you have these powers. And with these powers come responsibility, and this is why we do what we do. Because Helena is debating if should she go out every night beating people up? What is the point? Is she really truly saving anybody? She doesn't really want to do that. She just wants to have a normal life and everything. And she'll never have that, and she'll never be normal because she is metahuman and she has like half cat like abilities and stuff. And Barbara is just hammering at her, letting her know, this is what we do, this is why we have to do it and stuff. And Barbara is her mentor, but Barbara also adds motherly to her. Like Barbara really looks out for Helena and stuff. And at some point in the series, they do have a bond, and they are friends and everything, and they do reconcile every now and then. But Helena just got that big chip on her shoulder. But for the most part, she sees the kindness that Barbara shows to her, and if she can't have her real mother, she'll have it in the form of Barbara and stuff like that. But so she does decide, okay, fine, whatever, I'm gonna go out tonight. She'll take out her frustration on like a mugger or something like that. And that's one thing I do like about the show. They show her fighting just regular thug people. That's something that's been bugging me about the Arrowverse. You never see them beat up like carjackers, robbers, killers, stuff like that. It's always somebody with superpowers of the week. So she dresses up in her outfit and she goes out in the night. Now this is the thing that probably did it in for a lot of people on the show. Like I said before, she doesn't wear a costume. She wears regular clothes, but her regular clothes are so unique that they look kind of like a costume. She always wears trench coats. I guess that's the illusion of like a cape. And it's kind of because the Matrix had just came out a couple of years, and so like everybody was into this whole like trench coat phase. They did it in Buffy. She dresses kind of like goth and everything, and her outfit does kind of look superhero-ish, but it's not. It's clothes, and every night she wears a different outfit. And so in this one episode, she's wearing like a see-through lace looking trench coat, and other times she'll wear like a leather trench coat, and or sometimes she'll wear pants. Well, she always wears pants, but different kind of pants and stuff. And so it has that dark angel-esque vibe to it, and she has short choppy hair, which Huntress is not known for doing that. And like I said before, she has that choker on her and those earrings, so how do people not know who she is? Not only that, but she never wears a mask. And she shows her face when beating people, but she thinks because she fights so quick and so fast, nobody will be able to see her, which is kind of true. She's always running around, bopping around, flipping and turning to where people can't really see her face, but she does talk to people, especially when they see her, and people recognize her on the street. So how come they'll be all like, hey, you're that bartender, and you're also like a superhero? Now, she is able to climb buildings with her claws, and she's able to jump like large leaps and bounds and stuff. And she's able to jump like extremely high in the air because her cat-like reflexes. And she's able to see at night because her eyes will like contract and do like that cat-looking thing. And but for some reason I hate when they do this. When every time she fights, they keep having this cat roar type sound and everything, and it's just like it's so irritating because it's kind of like, okay, we get it, she's a cat. So the person who she ends up beating up and saving is Jerry. See, at some point in time, Jerry somehow found Dinah. And he starts acting weird and creepy towards her, like he's gonna kill her. What brought on this sensation? Because he was all nice and friendly before, but this is Gotham. Now, there is probably a reason for that, and I'll get into that a little bit later. And so he's finna hurt her, and then here comes Huntress. She whoops on him a little bit, and when Dinah sees her, she's like, oh my God, it's you. I dreamt about you. So of course that freaks her out. And she's all like, just a thank you would suffice. And then so what's her name? Dinah grabs her hand. She gets that mental image. And apparently the mental image she gets is where Helena stays at and like the combination to how to get into the building, because it's like a secret panel that you touch and it glows, and then you put in like a couple of digits for a code, and then that's how you get into the clock tower. And so that's where Barbara hangs out, the clock tower, and she lives and she operates as Oracle. And so after seeing that, she leaps away and everything. And then so later on, Dinah breaks into the place and gets knocked out by Huntress. And so when she wakes up, she's talking about, oh, I know you, you're Barbara, you used to be Batgirl, and blah, blah, blah. And I saw that in my dream too. So they kind of figure out who she is. So they run some scans on her. I gotta say, the equipment they use on this show, I used to find it hokey, but now I kind of find it cool in a comic booky kind of way. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, they scan her brain. They see she's a metahuman. She calls herself a freak, but Helena hates that word. She's like, we're normal, just like everybody else. And so they find out she has these mental abilities. And so, for some reason, Dinah's all like, well, let me join your team. I want to be a superhero too. And they're like, no. And stuff. But of course, Barbara, she's all about bringing in young people into the fold, just like Batman. So, but Helena does not want her to get hurt. So it's a big no-no for that. And so, and it's kind of weird. There's never really no explanation in the pilot as to why she really truly ran away and why she wants to be a hero now, but it is revealed later on in the series and stuff. And so I want to talk about like the clock tower thing. That's an interesting design because Barbara operates there, and it's an actual clock tower and stuff, and it's very beautiful looking, and CGI, of course. And of course, when the show got canceled in 2003, the clock tower looks very much like the watchtower from Smallville. So they're like, hey man, your show can't have it, we'll have something similar to it. So when Dinah wakes up, Alfred's there, he's attending to her, because Alfred, you know, he's all by himself now in Wayne Manor, so he hangs out with Barbara and stuff, and so he tidies up her place and stuff like that, and he helps out. Like in the finale, he's there with a shotgun, ready to take out some metahumans and stuff. And so Dinah tells him about the dude who ran in front of traffic, and when she touched him, he said the word Phoenix. So after doing some investigating, they find out it could belong to this like one dude. I think it's kind of like a shell company or something like that. So Huntress goes to investigate, and when she goes to investigate this man, he is hung and everything. And so Barbara's trying to warn her, but like, look, the police didn't know this came out. They're heading your way, and of course they get there within seconds. And so there she meets Reese for the first time. And she's kind of like, crap, I'm standing next to this body being hung, and you got the wrong idea. Well, he cuffs her anyway, and he cuffs her to like a part of the room. And so they have this really unique banter towards each other. It's flirtation in a who are you kind of like situation. She's all like, look, I'm not the bad guy, I'm the good girl and everything. I'm here to solve like murders and mysteries and blah, blah, blah. So he's all like, so you're good. So what's your weapon and everything, because you ain't got one, dressed like that. And she's all like, I am the weapon. But in a way, they have more banter back and forth where she comes out of the handcuffs and he's like shocked, and so like she leaps out the window, and she does it in the very same way that Jessica Alba did it in Dark Angel. And so, like I said before, those two have like a will they, won't they kind of thing, but the writers never pulled that like trigger on them. So after some more like investigation, Barbara realizes these two men got something in common. They're all part of this same like company and stuff, and it has to do something with like the dockyards. And so all these people that end up dead, they're all billionaires, and there's only one living left. And so it's kind of like a crappy situation because Huntress got to be in two places at the same time. One has to go to the dockyard, and one has to keep this dude safe. And so Dinah's like, she's all like, let me go to the dockyard. And then so she says it like 3 times, and then she screams it out loud in a very impulsive kind of way. She's very impulsive because she's young. And so they let her go there to the dockyards all by herself with no formal training of how to fight or use her powers and stuff. And that's very irresponsible. So that's kind of like a flaw in the writing, in my opinion. But that's something Batman would totally do, probably. But he'll at least get him some training first. But Barbara's just like, whatever. And so she goes there, and Barbara gives her like this weird, goofy eyeglass thing that has like sensors and infrared type stuff, and it's really hokey, but it's kind of booky at the same time. And so it hooks up to Barbara's lair, and it's cool because like there's this giant green like bubble that goes around Barbara, and everything Dinah's can see through the glasses. Now Barbara can see through like this holographic imagery type stuff. And at first I thought this was really stupid, but now I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. This, because Iron Man does this crap like a lot. And this was early 2000 CGI, and it actually holds up. And it's cool because like when Dinah's walking through like the place, you see it moving on like Barbara's end and stuff. Well, Dinah falls through like some floorboards, and she goes down in like the tunnels or the sewers or whatever. And Barbara is having some flashbacks. Because this is her last battle as Batgirl. And so we get a nice little flashback. And in the flashback, Barbara's beating up some thugs down in the tunnels, and then Joker shows up, and she tries to fight the Joker, only for him to electrocute her, sending her flying through, like, hitting the back of the wall. And they actually show this fight in the flashback. I'm like, this is crazy. You'll never see that in, like, modern day stuff now. And if you do, you see, like, the back of somebody, and it's choreographed in a way where you can't, like, it's really quick and flashy, you can't really see nobody's face. And so in comes Batman running and leaping the same way Val Kilmer did in Batman Forever. Him and Joker like go through this rubble, and then it's like kind of like this explosion and fire and stuff. And that's the last she saw of like Batman after a while, because he left after that. And Joker, after that, this is the part that the flashbacks that's confusing, because after that he shot Barbara and stuff. So she said it's the last time she saw him, but it can't be because he shot her and stuff. So maybe it's the last time she was Batgirl, but who knows, whatever. So at some point in time, both him and Joker decide like to leave and stuff. And so as Dinah's down there, she sees like a bunch of papers and a photograph of a family. It's the man that Helena is supposed to protect. So they rush to like get to her. When Helena is with this man, at first he spots her and he recognizes her face because she doesn't wear a mask. And so, like, they talk and they realize they know each other. She knows him from back in the day. And then he gives her, like, some tea, but then she is, like, drugged. It turns out this man's a metahuman, too. He can control people's mind. See, remember when I said that Dinah saw that man jump in front of the bus? Well, before that, he was sitting next to a man in a trench coat and sunglasses. That was this dude, Larry. So, Larry. Now, I remember the Aaron Paul actor who played like Jerry. Remember how like he just went like crazy on like Dinah for like no reason? I think Larry used his mind control on him, because remember, Dinah saw that dude get hit with the car and he talked to her. So Larry had to shut her up. And I guess when he saw those two hang out, that he just mind controlled what's his name, because the dude just went like nuts out of like nowhere. He's trying to stop Helena. He's mind controlling her to kill herself with a giant knife. And so Barbara shows up. Well, first Dinah shows up, and boy, he takes her out. And then Barbara shows up and she throws a birdarang. Now the birdarangs, I still don't like them. They're big, they're circular, and they're in the shape of a really cool looking bird, but they're just too big and clumsy looking and stuff. But I like how shiny they are. But yeah, Barbara, she like has those, and like she throws it and stuff. And of course, being Oracle, she also has the police retractable stick things, and she fights with those. So as he's knocked out bad, he tells them like a little piece of him is still inside her because Helena will not stop trying to stab herself. Blood is coming out. So Dinah decides she's going to go inside her mind. Now, this is the part that's kind of weird. Dinah still has not have no training on her powers, but yet now all of a sudden she can go in somebody's mind and really do some Professor X type of stuff with no training. So that's very rushed. And she goes in there and she talks to her, but she takes Barbara in with her. Barbara is now dressed as Batgirl and can walk. This is really cool. But that dude, Larry, is inside the mind too. He knows that Helena hates the dude in the trench coat who killed her mom, so he dresses as her. After some pep talks here and there, Barbara decides to fight him but get her butt whooped, and as she's about to die inside inside Helena's mind, Helena turns into Huntress and she whoops on this dude. They fight and Helena ends up stabbing the guy. Now, if you don't know anything about Huntress, she's very violent in the comics and she has a crossbow. I'm pretty sure she does kill in the comics and stuff, but in this show she doesn't, but she kills them in the mine. And so all girls like hold hands and they come out the mine, and it turns out it left him brain dead because he died inside her mind, and then so that made him like brain dead. He's still alive though. They send him to Arkham and everything. And it's the scene from Batman Forever, the Arkham like footage. So they showed that. I guess they just didn't want to have to rebuild like the sign and stuff. And so he's there and Harlene's there and she's supposed to be like counseling him. So then she goes inside his cell and tells him he disappoints her. Like she was supposed to build this army and he screwed up. And so then she kicks him. A really nice kick. This is to show that the martial arts ability that Harley Quinn has from like the comics and stuff. So when all the ladies are back at the clock tower, they're talking about what to do with Dinah because she's so young, but they decide they're gonna keep her and everything, and she'll have to go to school there. So it kind of has that WB vibe to it, you know what I'm saying? And so at some point, Helena and Helena and Barbara, they're talking on top of the clock tower, and they're just reconciling, like they're bonding now. Helena's gonna stop being like a little butthead towards her, and you know, and they just have a nice heart-to-heart talk. And unlike the Arrowverse, it's not a long-winded speech. It's short, it's choppy, it gets to the point. There's a little tension, there's some sorrow, there's this nice emotion. That's how dialogue should be in TV, because that's how it is in real life. It's not long-winded speeches that last for like a whole like 10 minutes and stuff. And then so the camera just pans out into the city and it plays like some nice early 2000s music. You know, it's funny. I have really come to appreciate this show and really enjoy it and stuff. Like, it's a whole lot better than I remember. And a lot of other people say the same thing too. Because a lot of people really hated this show when it came out. And they hated it because they got rid of Batman. Nobody's wearing a costume in the show. They changed people's powers around for some bizarre reason. And, you know, that's something that just really bugged people and stuff. And so people just really wasn't feeling it. But when people go back and watch it, they're kind of like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. I mean, yeah, they're fighting unknown villains, but at least they have powers and stuff. And when it comes to Dinah, it turns out that she is, in fact, Dinah Lance's daughter and everything. The real Black Canary actually shows up in the episode, played by now a disgraced actress, Becky from Full House. Look, here's the thing, right? I ain't cool with her bribing colleges just to put her child through college because her child ain't smart enough to get into it. Where people like myself had to bust their butt in order to get into college, get a bunch of loans and grants and all this other crap, and still is trying to pay that crap off while she gets a free ride and everything. Screw you, Aunt Becky. Screw you. And so, yeah, she is Black Canary, Dinah Lance and everything. And she gave her daughter up for adoption because she was worried that her daughter would get harmed by like all the villains she had to fight. Then we get Lady Shiva, like 2.0. It's the daughter because there's a flashback with Batgirl and Lady Shiva 1.0, the original one, and they're fighting, and it's a cool fight and everything. And so she goes into a building and it explodes because it's like a gas leak. And so 2.0 blames Barbara for that. And after becoming friends with Helena, she had no idea she was the Huntress. And so no idea she was friends with Barbara. So she goes to kill Barbara, but Barbara decides she's gonna take care of this herself. She has this exo spine suit type thing. No, some type of, she has this device that attaches to her spine and is able to make her walk. And she puts on her Batgirl costume, but it doesn't last long because there are bugs in it and stuff, like kinks. To get the kinks worked out, and so she's unable to fight her. So here comes Huntress and everything, and it was cool because Barbara would put on her costume. She was ready to go back into the field and everything, but the device messed up until the finale, where she got the kinks all worked out. And boy, she was whooping on some Harley Quinn and everything. And so I do like how Reese and like Huntress had this will they won't they thing. It didn't overshadow the show. And he became a very good ally to the Birds of Prey. And then like in the finale, he's helping out with the fight and stuff. And everybody is holding their own. Alfred's holding his own. Reese is holding his own. Dinah is holding her own, and Huntress and Barbara are beating up on Harley Quinn at different points in time. Now, one thing that does bug me in that finale is that we know Huntress can jump really high in the air, like, and stuff like that. But now it's shown that both Harley Quinn and Barbara can do it too. I don't like that. And so, like, one interesting thing with this is that the development of Dinah, they enhance her mental powers to where she becomes more like Jean Grey. She's able now to give out psychic blasts and shield type things. So it's kind of cool. And I really truly think if the show would have lasted a little bit longer, if they would have had costumes, if they were to have villains that people recognize and everything with costumes, I truly think this could have lasted a lot longer than what it did. Because even Bruce Wayne, even though he doesn't show up, he calls Alfred at the very last scene in the finale and asks how's his daughter doing. So he does know about her, but for some reason he just won't come back. And so that's another thing. People wanted Batman. They didn't get Batman. That's the problem that Batwoman has and stuff. And so is this better than like the Arrowverse? That's hard to say. It depends on what you like. If you like action and not so much drama and villain of the week, no dark grittiness and all that other stuff, then you'll like this show. But if you like the formula of Arrowverse, long-winded speeches, love taking over the show, huge story arcs that take forever to explain, then you'll like that. But when I say both, like I will say, I do prefer Birds of Prey over the Arrowverse because those things that I mentioned that I don't like about the Arrowverse, I don't have to see in Birds of Prey. I would like Birds of Prey to be a little bit more dramatic. I would like for the fight scenes to last a little bit longer, but I do like the overall formula of like the show. And it's quite a shame because it's not that bad. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.